It's time to stop the lies that kill animal habitat and the beauty of Earth. Global warming is documented by official climate records that show the effects of CO2. Let's look at those official climate records. With one reality and two theories, it's time to get serious about climate change.
Climate change is complex.
Some say that most of the cause of climate change is the sun and seas.
Others say it is CO2.
The first group states that the sun is the only source of heat capable of causing the magnitudes of change observed in the climate, and that the month-to-month changes in climate can be mostly explained by the heat flowing from the seas to the air.
The second group states that CO2 has a greenhouse gas property that forces climate, and that CO2's anthropogenic rise correlates well with climate change.
But that's not all.
The IPCC and others add that anthropogenic CO2 has an associated property that anti-forces climate, anthropogenic coaerosols. The IPCC has, in their latest report, approved models to incorporate the cooling of Earth from CO2 anthropogenic coaerosols.
MIT oceanographer Marshall, one of the biggest challenges of climate science is to quantify the relative role of aerosols in cooling the planet's surface versus greenhouse gases warming it.
If removing coaerosols would cause warming of 1 degree, then coaerosols are currently cooling our biosphere by 1 degree.
In addition, NASA, NOAA, and others add that CO2, oxygen of life, has a green property that also anti-forces the climate from its effect on photosynthetic life that cools.
Significant greening over the last 35 years largely due to rising levels of CO2. Global green-up slows warming. In a world with doubled CO2, would create a new negative feedback, a cooling effect.
Global plant growth surging alongside CO2.
Greening of the Earth and its drivers. CO2 effects explains 70% of the observed greening trend. As our planet gets greener, plants are slowing global warming. CO2 fertilization is the main driver of greening on the global scale. Climate models indicate that in a doubled CO2 environment, temperature would increase. These models, however, did not allow the vegetation to increase its leaf density as a response to the physiological effects of increased CO2.
In full, one property that forces climate,
but two that anti-force climate.
So, what is the full effect of oxygen of life?
Does its full effect cause global warming?
Or is CO2 a negative feedback that slows warmings that have naturally occurred since the dawn of life?
For decades, scientists have recorded changes in sea surface temperatures, CO2 levels, and global temperatures.
It was official climate records that years ago clarified that global warming was real.
And now, with only one reality, those same official climate records have clarified the full effect of key drivers of climate change.
Here is a study of cause and effect relationships in our biosphere using real-time official climate records. No models.
Validated by first analyzing water vapor and methane gases with a greenhouse effect.
Compared the results derived from all 8 global climate institutes to test if all agreed.
Confirmed by 5 different parametric and non-parametric analytic methods.
Tested variation over time.
And finally, independently verified by 4 other studies.
Here, the entire hourly from 1974 and monthly from 1958 real-time official climate record, clarified evidence to support the following.
The greenhouse property of atmospheric gases forced climate, added to global warming.
Most of the recent rise in CO2 did not precipitate from the seas.
The seas, powered by the sun, drove climate change.
The full effect of CO2, greenhouse plus green plus co-aerosol, anti-forced climate change.
Global warming was natural, but slowed anthropogenically.
Anthropogenic restoration of oxygen of life back to the air, greened Earth, reduced pollution, and mitigated the rise of global temperatures and sea levels.
After drops or small rises of oxygen of life, global warming generally accelerated.
After the largest rises in oxygen of life, the biosphere generally cooled.
The world needs to base policy for oxygen of life on its full effect, not just on its greenhouse effect, and rely on facts of the official climate record, the highest authority in climate science, not models.
2 theories, 1 reality.
Either consensus climate theory is wrong,
Or the official climate records from every climate institute in the world are wrong.
Are you going to believe a 95% consensus of climate activists?
Or believe the 100% consensus of the highest authorities in climate science? Official climate records.
You deserve the truth. I hope you found that very interesting.